Alright, good evening everyone. Alright, let's get this switched over. Hope everyone's having a wonderful evening, and hopefully everyone's interested in some dev tonight. So we're going to be focusing tonight on doing some development. As the previous couple of streams, we've kind of focused more on the platform and kind of cloud and CI/CD areas, but tonight I want to look at some development, specifically around kind of how to integrate identity into our application and get people to be able to log in, and how to do that safely and securely. So let's make sure we've got everything up and running here. So we've got our repository, which linked in the chat, and I'll keep linking over the evening, and then I'm of course using a dev container so that I don't have to have all the tools kind of installed on my base machine. I can have just the tools I need inside the container, and that's just currently sitting on our main branch. So yeah, also tonight, if we're lucky, we might see some spaceship or starship and rocket stuff going on. I don't think the launch is scheduled till after the stream, but depending on how things are going, I might stay on. We might do some streaming while we watch that rocket launch attempt. If not, nothing else, at least I will get a couple of shots of them. I think the broadcast starts in about an hour or so. But for now, let's focus on getting some coding done. So I'll just turn the music down just a tad. Hopefully that's good for everyone. Alrighty. So I think first things first, we should create a branch. And we're just going to call this branch identity, and we switch to it. Cool. And we'll push that branch up into GitHub, and we'll do this normal push. One day I will remember to do the git config, but see how long that happens. Cool. So, opened up a couple of browser tabs for tonight. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the Microsoft Identity kind of framework to do this. So, a couple ways you would do this normally. You would kind of start your project off with it, so you'd actually use the project template, which included that identity. And so, what you'd do here is, so we do a lot of things by command line, would use the .NET new command, Blazor server for the project name, and then add authentication. And there's different options to do that. And that's kind of the easiest way. If you know you're doing identity kind of to start with, then that's a really good way to do that. But in this case, we've already built our basic app, which should still be running. I can actually let's go here and double check that. We'll just copy that link, and we will paste it here. Yep, so our application is still running. That's great. So yeah, what we're going to do is try and scaffold the identity into this project. So what I've done is I've done a bit of searching, and we've come up with this documentation page here on learn.microsoft.com. And we're going to look at how we scaffold identity with a Blazor server project. So first things first, let's go and add this package, which is the code generation design package. Didn't like that because we are in the wrong directory. So let's actually move into the directory with the source code. Alright, so that's going to go and add that package in. So that package is going to do a lot of the kind of code generation for us. So it's going to do like that design work, and then the next one we'll add in is the actual code generator itself. Alright, so that's that one done. So let's go and add in this tool. So the command here, so we're doing a .NET tool install, and the -G is to tell us that it's a global install, so we're globally installing that. So it's saying it can add it to our path, so let's add it to our path there, because it couldn't add it because we are running in a container, so it mostly gets a bit confused, but that's good. Let's make sure all these things are added to our path. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add all these packages into our project. So this will be, so if we just take this here, so we've got our designer, we're adding entity framework in, so that'll give us essentially database access, which if we get time tonight will be good. If we can add in kind of a SQL Server instance and actually get some databasing in, would be great. But yeah, so we're adding entity framework, we're adding ASP.NET Core, identity, and an identity UI. So let's go and add those in. Cool. So now one of the reasons we're using identity here is that we don't really want to try and roll our own effectively. So we don't want to kind of implement all of the software that would be required to do kind of token authentication and then storing username and passwords, ensuring the encryption is correct, making sure that our encryption is up to standards. So we're essentially we're offloading a lot of that responsibility to a third party. So in this case, I'll be using Azure AD as the third party authenticator. So that means that to log in, you would need a Microsoft account or to be in the Azure AD tenant that I'm actually linking things to. I'll try and do that one, but I'll also, again, if we have time, I might also try and do a Google identity. So that would be if you have a Gmail account, you can use Gmail to identify for the application. Alright, great. We've added all of that tooling in. And now we're just going to run this command. And this is going to do our scaffolding. Now let's just see if this works. I don't know if this will work straight out. I said a lot of time in this channel, I'm not going to test this beforehand. I'm going to show you what it's like when you don't know what's going to happen. So let's go see if that all works for us. Alright, cool. So let's see, what have we got here? So that's all. Okay, yeah, it didn't work because that's the -H. We're asking for help there. So this is giving us our arguments and everything here. So it's gonna set up DB context and all these things. So most really need to. So it looks like we're actually going to need that database now. So it's not just going to let us scaffold identity without having some database, which is fine. So what we're going to need to do then is we're going to need to get the database up and running with this application. So what we can do here is we can either sideload, essentially have another container running, which gives us that application, which is mostly the easiest way to do that. So what I'm going to check is, do I have access to Docker? And I do. So I have set up Docker in Docker. So what that does, that allows me to access Docker from inside my container. So we're going to be able to create our Docker images and run Docker images from inside. So that's great. So let's go and look up how to do Docker on the SQL Server. So we're just going to want an image. So we're just going to, a lot of this development to start with is going to be locally, and then we will also need to set up a database in Azure for doing this as well. So let's just try this one while we're doing the development. So we're also going to need, in doing this, a good way to I didn't like something. Where didn't we like something? It didn't like this. Sorry, we'll just call it strong password for now. Yeah, so we're going to need to set this up in the Terraform for the environment as well, so adding in a SQL Server, so we can do that as well. Cool, so that's pulling down that. So the other thing we'll do here is we will work out the best way for us to store the connection strings. Now I don't want to get too complicated on this for this particular stream, but definitely what we'll do in the future is we'll set up Azure Key Vault and use that to store things like connection strings and database secrets and things like that. But for now we'll mostly use something like an environmental variable. Cool, that's up and running now. So yeah, we'll use that environmental variable inside the container, which isn't the most secure. Actually, we'll do it inside the container. We'll do it inside the app service environment variable. So that's a bit better, but it's still better to use something like Azure Key Vault really for this kind of secure thing. Okay, great. So we've got SQL Server running locally, and we can see that if we go docker should be in PS. No, it didn't come up. It might come up in the external docker. Let's just have a look. Container running. No, it didn't want to. No, it seems to think it's running, so. Well, we'll see as we go, see if that's actually working or not. That's right. So that's how to set that up. Alrighty, so back to what we were doing here, which is getting help on the identity generator. Okay. So the scaffold option we want to use here. What do we want to use? So we'll target the CS project file. That's fine. Live configuration, which should be fine. We'll include the DB context, so we'll want that as well. So let's try this. So let's go .NET ASP.NET code generator identity. So we'll call this TextDB. So that'll be our database context, which actually that's sort of thing that made a good point. We want to make sure we're using the correct name spacing here. So what we'll do is we'll actually change it slightly, and we'll call it, so it'll be Twitch app demo.data.twitch app db context. Right, so that'll be that part, and then we want, so we'll do the files here, so that'll be account.register, account.login. I missed a space this, let's give a space. So yeah, that's fine. Okay, so this should allow us to register and have a login page, and it should set us up a database context. So let's see what it does. So I didn't specify the CS project, but there is only one inside this folder, so hopefully that's okay. Alright, so it's no database provided, but it's used SQL Server by default. That's fine. Let's go. Have a look. Did it do anything that I wanted it to do? I'm not sure it did the thing that I wanted it to do. Alright, well, we have the identity framework core there. It does not exist in that namespace, so we're seeing some errors. And okay, where did it's saying it added it, so where did it add it? So we got pages here, maybe, no, not shared. Here we go, area. Areas, identity, data. Now it's complaining, saying entity framework core is missing. So let's do that package. Let's add that in. Did I misspell that? I might have. Let's copy it and make sure I don't misspell it. Okay. I'm not sure it's liking what I'm doing. So it's got it there, so that's fine. So let's do entity framework core. Let's go see some documentation. Right. Now I want to install it first. I don't think that's what. No, we don't want that. Install. There we go. I was missing the .SQL server at the end, and I had the add package all around the wrong way. That's alright. Cool. Alright, that should have done that. So let's now try build. See if it's going to throw any errors. No, it build with no errors, no worries. Cool, and I've just noticed that because we've reset, Handy Copilot is not installed into the container. Maybe we should fix that at some point too, but it's one of those get around to it things. Yep, and our friendly Copilot is here and ready to go. Alrighty. Now it doesn't like that at the moment, but that's fine. We know it built, so that's alright. Where were we? I wanted to go back to our scaffolding here. Now, what we'll need to do is we'll need to add in, so we can see we've got our connection string here. So we will leave it in here at the moment. Now the trusted connection here is not going to work. So this is because that would be using our user context that's kind of specific to this operating system here. So normally if you had something like a Windows machine that was logged in via Azure or AD, so Active Directory, you could use a trusted connection and it'll be recognized by the SQL server. In this case, we're not. So So what we'll need to do is set up a connection string here. So now again, for the testing and initially getting it working, we're just going to stick it into here, and we're going to do that. So that should be the password. And we'll say delete that. Actually, no. This is the SA password, so that's the server administrator password. Let's do the right thing here. Let's go and grab an extension, and we're going to go grab this extension for SQL Server. We'll install that into here. Alrighty. Now, is this going to let us connect? Hopefully this will. So, we want a SQL Server database. We'll put in Twitch DB. Sure. Going to add in a database. Now, I don't think this has actually done what we wanted it to do. That's doing a project. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's actually that's not the app we wanted. Sorry, it's not the extension we wanted. SQL tools. Let's try that one instead. So what we want to do here is we want to connect to the database, and we want to set up a new user specifically for what we're doing here. So we don't want to. So this is a project. No, what have we got here? Detect node. Something was unhappy. That's alright. We don't need that, so that's fine. SQL tools. Let's go and add a new connection. So this looks more like what we want. It's just taking a minute to refresh. Okay, it's going to be a bit slow. Again, I'm not sure we're actually seeing SQL running, which is also not. That's one. It's another one for another project. We've got our app service running here. And it seems to be taking a while. I don't know why it needed. Apparently, it needed a node. So, don't think we want to do that. Want some drivers. So this may not work, so may actually have required node, which package part of the VS SQL extension. Let's have a look at that extension. So I think it may be actually a part of that larger extension here. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to add, but we'll eventually use these Azure tools, so that you install those. But that'll be for when we're doing SQL up in Azure itself. Alrighty. Now, where did those? So these are this SQL tools here. So this has been installed, but I'm not sure that it's working the way I want it to. Because we installed the driver here. Yeah, I don't think that's actually works. That's all right. Let's try and uninstall that, because I don't think it's doing what we actually want it to do. We should install that. Okay, let's go through my extensions and finding the one that okay. So this is the one, so I think we want to uninstall. It says it cannot uninstall. Can we uninstall that one? And now can we uninstall? Okay, cool. Now we've cleaned that up. So, I wonder if, can we attach that to a local database account? No, that's going to be a database account up in Azure, so that's not what we want. So we've got that. So let's do that. And there's 27k, so I'm not sure. Not a whole lot of good looking options there, is there? Doing databases inside here. Now, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. That's kind of annoying, because I didn't want to have to install the tool outside. Let's try SQL here. So this one says that it does connect to these things. So it's just okay, let's see if this does its thing. We'll do a SQL login and SA, and the password we used was this one. Yeah, we'll just save that for now, because again, this is So it's created a SQL profile. Okay. Then we press F1 and SQL man. And it is. What do we want to do? No, we want SQL con. And we want to try and connect. SQL editor must have focus. Right. What am I doing wrong here? No, that's not what I wanted to do. No, that's Control Shift C does not work in this context. Okay. Alright. Right, what we might do. Let's try this create a project again. And we'll call this project which DB, and we're going to actually put it in its own one called database. Please enter a path that exists. Okay, well. Alright, we'll use that one. Okay. Alright, so we've got that there. Alright, so that gives us a database. Okay. Good thing we're gonna add. No, I don't think we're doing that. Okay, I don't think that's doing what we want either. Just wanted to connect to the database and do the connection. Should have that ready. I'm not seeing that because we've definitely got the image pulled down, but it doesn't seem to be running. I don't know if that'll work. Maybe not. He didn't like that connection. Okay. Why isn't that running? I wonder if it doesn't like the password. That could be it. Let's grab this. I'm just gonna remove those and put a couple of characters there. No, it didn't like that either. Okay, so it doesn't like the exclamation mark there. There we go. That looks better. So let's try this again. Okay, and the password we put in this time. Yeah, so what seems to be happening there was that when we ran the database, it didn't like the password, and then it effectively said it wasn't going to run. Call this local DB. Right. And we would say select a database. We don't have a database. There are no databases yet. I don't think it likes that. Can we get to set up a query? So if we go create right, so we do that and then we save up. This is error failing. Launching server runtime node failed. Are we still running? Yeah, it's still running. Let's show. Is that not the command we want? No. Use database. It's supposed to be used Twitch app. No, didn't like that either. Nothing we can do here. It's telling us there's a list of databases there. It didn't give us an error there, so let's try. No, didn't like that connection either. Think we're going to have to connect in directly because it's being a little bit problematic. Okay. Let's be sure we've got that password saved somewhere for now. We can also do this here. We go. This will be localhost. We weren't going to do that. I was just remembering why I wasn't doing that, because we want to create that account, so that's fine. So what I'll do is I'm just going to create. I'm going to get rid of this for the moment because it's not doing what we want. There it goes. Just as a temporary, we're going to stick that there. And we want to do an attach. So how do we do that again? Attach to running container. It's Docker exec, I think. Let's have a look. It's a Docker attach, but attach to Silly Robinson, which seems to be the name of the container that was given. Let's see if that will work. No, it does not look like. I'm just checking to see if outside we can see anything, which we can't. That's fine. Oh, I think we just killed the SQL agent. Let's restart that SQL agent. Or SQL server itself. That's fine. Then we'll do let's do this exec. And bash. Alrighty. So now we're actually on inside the container. Oh, sorry, are you on there? Okay. Now we want now how do we log into SQL running in the container? How do we do that? So we do opt tools bin and then the password. So this should give us access to the SQL instance. So it doesn't like that, so let's maybe put doesn't like capital U dash capital U. Didn't like that. This is a capital P maybe. Could be a capital P here too. Does not like that at all. There we go. Right. Cool. Alrighty. So we are now inside there. So let's look up how to create a user. So using straight SQL commands. There we go. So we're going to create user, username of Twitch DB user, and we're going to say, let's go find a good example. Usually they have examples kind of down the bottom. There we go. So what we do first is we create we'll create a login. So there's an actual connection to the server itself. And we'll call it Twitch DB user. Actually with password to we go, let's say a very strong password. Let's see if that'll work. So that'll be our password. Okay. And now what we'll do is we create, oops, I've hit caps lock. Create user, which DB user for login. So create a login to actually connect to the server. Now we're creating a user for that server there. And just do a go. So the go here should essentially flush it forwards. Okay. So that's fine. So that's that. So now what we want to do is we want to so what we want is a database user. So that's how we do the login, but I want to give him permissions on, there we go, grant permissions on a database. Now I want to grant effectively all on that database. So again, this would be easier with command line, or with the SQL Server Management tool, but we're doing it the hard way at the moment, and doing it like this. So then using T-SQL. Okay, Stack Overflow will help us. Not quite what I was going for. Close. There we go, that's the one I want. I want DB owner. So we exec, stored proc. And then this will be for Twitch DB user. Okay. So what we should be able to do now is, so we called that Twitch demo app because of course we did something different there. And then we want to go, his name is equal to Twitch DB user, and then we say password, and then this one here. Okay, and so we will be removing this password, we won't be pushing this into source control at all. Whoops. Oh, exit. And we bounce out of that. Alrighty. Bit of a long-winded way of doing that, but we should have the database set up now, and we should have a user set up that we can connect with. So what we want to do now is we want to do this one here. Still right. No, didn't like the .NET EF. We want to get created. Started with. We need to make sure we got the command line tool installed. There we go. So that'll install the global entity framework tools. There we go. That should be done. Now let's do an initial create. So this will test, I think, to see if we're able to build the application. We should be able to do that. And then we should be able to now add a migration for the identity schema. And we should be able to update. Keyword not supported username. Didn't like that because I think that's wrong. I'm just thinking about it. I think the SQL connection string is wrong because it's user ID, not username. That's right. Let's try that again. Didn't like that. Oh, well, we are still running. Oops. So it should be localhost database, user ID, password. I'll just remove this last one. Tunnel exception happened. Remote certificate was rejected. Well, that's a pain. What was it? Remote. What certificate? No, we don't want that. That's being problematic. It's always the simple things you think, oh, I'll just set up a database and create a user and it'll be fine. But what's happening here is it's trying to use SSL to verify the connection. And it's not working because because we're running the connection on another Docker image. It's not doing that. That's not very useful. Alright, we might have to pivot and actually set up the database in Azure and then connect to it that way. Okay, yep. So I don't want to spend too much time on this on at the moment. So let's just stop this container just so we're not using that extra resources, and then we'll remove the container as well, just clean up those resources. So what we need to do is we need to add a database. So let's go like this into our Terraform. What we'll do actually is we'll switch back to our main branch here. Make sure we've got everything from main. And we're going to go call this branch DB infra. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to modify the infrastructure. And I didn't want to do that on the branch we were working on for the code update. So let's go have a quick look for Azure SQL on here, database. Now we're just going to want a very simple database here. Okay. Now that's a server. We have just a standard hosted. Let's have a quick look. So we go. We don't want to have a big, huge database here. We don't need anything particularly heavy. So let's have a quick look at what it actually contains. Let's go see the database pricing. On a single database. And it's going to put this in the Australia East region, or sorry, Southeast region. And we'll do that, and we'll say monthly. We just want very basic. Maybe even just put the DTU. Basic DTU, that should be $8 a month. That should be plenty for what we're doing here, especially in the development. So alright. Just changing, so there was a deprecated notice there, so we want to change that. Now the SKU here they're putting is S0. I don't think that's the SKU we're looking at. No, so that's S0 here. We don't want a SKU of an S0 or a SKU of a B. Okay, alright, so let's give this a shot. We'll just put this in our mains. We've got our Linux web app settings, identity, all that, so that's fine. We should just be able to put this as a resource after that. So after that we go resource. So we want we need a server first. Okay. Call Twitch app. So name. Yep, that's fine. That resource group should be fine. That's what we've got there, so that should be all good. Get the application, version 12, administrator login, and now we want to use a variable here for the password. And we don't want to give it a default. We want to force that to be set. And we'll be setting that in the pipeline. And we want this to be var SQL password. Cool. So, new resource. SQL, and now we have the database. Oop, didn't quite the database. Go Twitch app. And we'll call that resource group. Fine. Collation is fine. Max. Is 2. I don't think we need the read scale skew. We want it to be now S0 there. I'm just going to check the skew list here and see if it tells me what I can do, if I can do basic. Doesn't seem showing me anything unless I missed it. We're not gonna do that. I know, so it does need to be basic here. Okay. There we go, basic. Alrighty. Just. Of course, you're not gonna. It'll sit nicely. Now, why is that not sitting? Seems to have a bit of an issue there. We'll see. We'll see. So go to the infra. Let's go make sure that gets formatted. Was there anything else after the SKU name that I really named? Zone redundant. I don't think we need to find that at the moment. Just check to make sure that that is indeed optional. Yep, that's optional, so that's fine. Okay. Let's update that. Don't need that random. And we're not going to save that stuff. Okay, so what we should be able to do is do Terraform plan. Oh wait, we'll do an AZ login first, and then we'll do a init. So we want to go and verify what these changes will actually do. So just do my Azure login. Okay. So Azure login is fine there. Alright, and now we'll do our init. Make sure we initialize that back end. And get all of our state. And now we should be able to do a Terraform plan. So we don't need to put this out anywhere at the moment. And we'll go a secure password. That's fine. Alright. Doesn't like some things here. Server ID required but was not found. So this is line 56. We did not include a server ID. Yep, no, that's correct. We did not. So should be. Now it's not liking. That should be that. Double enter there. The server name here isn't a thing. Also, resource group does not seem to be required here either. I'm assuming this is going to be because it's kind of already part from the server, so it's going to assume that. Just want to check. We've got the license type here and see if that's required. No, as an option. Alright, so that's fine. Alright, let's do another plan. And secure password there. Location on line 58. Didn't like. Do we need? No, we don't need the location either because again, it's taking it from the parent SQL server. Oh, that's fine. Okay, let's wait for that to come back. Alright, cool. That seems to be doing that plan now. Cool. Alrighty. Now, I should go over and check to see if that stream has started for Starship. No, it does not look like it. It looks like it's been pushed back another 66 minutes, so that'll be live 10:15 p.m. Time. So let's wait for that to. That'll be good to see that. Cool. Alrighty, there's our plan. So that's good. So it's just going to add this in. Alright, that should be all good. Alright, now we aren't going to run it from here, we're going to run this on the pipeline, which is fine. So let's see here. So that should be all good there. We've got the variables here. So what we need to do now is go over to Twitch here, and we're going to go add in a new secret for actions, and we're going to add that as a variable. Now we need to call it something specific here, so if we look up Okay, cool. So we do it in the step when we set the environment variable there. It's actually in the action. So we run that in. Is it in the Terraform init? Or is it in the plan? Alright. Yeah, I'm trying to work out where that goes in. Don't think this told me where it went in. There we go. So it looks like, okay, in the Terraform plan. Okay, great. So we'll do no, we don't need that, so we want TF var, and then we want it to be SQL password, and we'll call that SQL password. Okay, so that should be fine. So let's go and now add in the new secret. We'll call it SQL. What we're going to do, I'm just going to bounce this off screen for a minute while I set up that password. Okay, and I just need to get myself a little notepad here. I'm just going to drag this over to my other screen as well, just so I can keep track of what I'm putting in there. Alright, so I'll bring this back across now. So now you can see we've got a SQL password in here, which is all fine. So what we should be able to do now is add here, and we will also need to make sure we add in. So what we're doing now is we're just making sure we're only adding in the things we wanted to. So for now, it wants to add all of the identity stuff in with the fine. We'll add it all in. It's fine. Let's just add everything. Alright. Alright. Set that. Alright, so we're pushing that up. Alright, I'm going to create our pull request, and we're going to merge this code in. Alright, and let's see if that all worked. Cool, so you can see here our nightly builds have all been running, which is good. Now let's see if this plan happens creates a SQL server and correctly puts in the password. So if this all works, what we'll do is we will use the .NET user secrets kind of configuration, and we'll use that to store the SQL password locally while we're developing. Okay, so it's made that plan. Right. Now let's see if it'll apply that. Hopefully that password and everything was included in that plan. Okay, so I was checking a text message. I've got a smoke alarms inspection tomorrow, just to make sure all our smoke alarms are working. Always good. Alright, we're doing the apply. Going ahead and creating, so we can actually even jump over, have a look, see if anything's been deployed yet. Nothing yet, that's alright. It's still creating the SQL Server instance, and then it'll create the database on it. So there's a lot more to identity as well when we actually set up things like how it integrates with Azure AD. Some of that I'm not going to be able to show just due to the sensitive nature of some of the connections with Azure AD. But what I will do is I'm going to work on a video for YouTube, and we're going to use that video to actually show exactly how you set up the identity connection, set up the kind of service principal accounts, things like that. Just in a way that we can kind of make sure that I'm not leaking any credentials anyway. Alright, so the server should be created now. Let's do a refresh. There we go, you can see there's a SQL server. And now it's creating the database. Alrighty. And these ones do take a little while, couple minutes maybe. That should be all good. So doing it this way, we'll also be able to set up and use kind of SQL Server Management Studio to connect in and give us a bit more of a graphical interface on how we're interacting with the database. Will be a bit easier. Actually, we should be able to use the Azure connection here. So I might do, while we're doing that, I might go sign in using this extension. And I'm going to sure I select the correct subscription, and this will give us access through here as well. Actually, it doesn't actually work from those resources. It doesn't like that. Alright, we've got that. All seems to be good. Now it's going to go build the app, and it's going to have all sorts of problems with that app. So this will actually fail the pipeline Oh, it might build, but it's not going to deploy anything. That's alright. Luckily, no one's really using this. It's for pre-production. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to, while that's happening, let's refresh here. I should be able to go and grab the connection string. Just going to pop this off to the side again while I do the connection string. Again, just being safe. Okay, it's asking for into the connection string for our database. Okay. Well, let's give it this one. It doesn't actually have any. It must be account endpoint account key. Don't think that is going to connect the way we want it to. No, that's alright. Hi, sure. Yep, career advice. Let's have a look here, just while things are happening. So you're a front-end engineer with 4 years of experience. You want to get a new job, switch to the back-end world. How much leak code do you have to do? And with the search of UI, is it worth pursuing? Okay, cool. Well, I'll break that down to a couple of things first. First of all, leak code. I'm not a huge fan of leak code. I don't think it's required. I think it's a bit overblown. Your best option really to get into back-end coding is to just start doing a few side projects. Start saying, okay, how do I set up an API? Doing very simple stuff like that to get kind of your hands dirty a bit to how do you build these things. So yeah, start with looking up how to build APIs. There's plenty of really good online courses depending on your language. Personally, I'm .NET, so there's a lot of really good resources on .NET and kind of API programming, backend programming for that. So tons of resources. Happy to recommend any of those, but also check out YouTube. Tons of really great resources on YouTube for learning how to do backend coding, things like that. Oh, cool. If you're already building simple microservice deployment to Docker containers, that's like the bread and butter. If they're all asking to do leak code, yeah, it is a problem. Some companies seem to think leak code's be all and end all. You can give it a try. Just yeah, I wouldn't get too worried about it, but give it a try. Try and approach the problems kind of like slowly, take it apart bit by bit. From a DevOps engineer, so you'll have a really good perspective actually as a former DevOps engineer of how code runs. That's really important with the back end. It's not just I can build it, but how it runs. But yeah, if you haven't struggling with leak code, look up algorithms, so kind of like different courses on algorithms. That'll help you to kind of approach these problems. So that's really good. Just to comment on the AI stuff, it's very much still worth pursuing even with the AI. AI is not going to take our jobs. The idea of AI and the AI tools is they're going to make it faster. So it's going to be good for doing like boilerplate code. Like as a previous DevOps engineer, you mostly know how boring YAML is. The AI tools are great for YAML. So, but any kind of structured, boring code there, they'll be really good. So, but yeah, DevOps can be sometimes it can be a bit of a drain, especially when you're bouncing between a lot of different worlds where sometimes it's dev, sometimes it's ops, doing CI/CD pipelines, things like that. It's not for everyone, but yeah, I still think DevOps. What you said there, DevOps is the principle and like kind of principles that DevOps puts out should be more of what you're doing as a team rather than doing it as a role. So I'm still very much one of those people that says DevOps isn't a role, it's a culture, because everyone should be doing DevOps, which is a hard sell still. So a lot of engineers that don't like doing it. Oh yeah, that's a rough day if you're getting 200 AWS boxes crashing. Yeah, some days like that. I'm trying to think what the worst alert I've had is. I've had ones which told me that the database just completely stopped working and it was production and just died and the whole application was offline and everyone was panicking and we ended up just doing a DB restore and moving forwards. Yeah, database was running on a VM and the VM tried to update and SQL died. Oh yeah, no, there was no DBA. There was DevOps. I was the lead DevSecOps engineer, which meant I held all the hats. so that was fun. Because yeah, sometimes in DevOps you end up doing a lot of things which just other jobs should do, but you're the one with all the access and you're the one who seems to know how the systems hang together. But yeah, definitely if you're looking for back-end stuff, yeah, do your best with leak code, just slogging away at it. But yeah, I still don't see the point of leak code. It's better to build things and show how they're building. Yeah, so my company role is I'm actually a DevX engineer, and that's developer experience. So that's taking DevOps and essentially turning all those principles and all that tool to supporting developers and making developers' lives easier. So how do we do CI/CD efficiently so that developers get fast feedback? I mean, yeah, you can go and deploy to production, but sometimes it's more useful for the developer to know, hey, there's a problem, and they can fix it with the right feedback. But also doing things like, how do we make onboarding engineers better? Can we set up cloud software to set up developer VMs? I'm very big on Microsoft DevBox as a product. I'm very much Microsoft based, by the way. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, so I'm very much Microsoft based. I haven't really done much in AWS. But yeah, all those kind of tooling helps support the developers, make their lives easier, and then they're going to create fantastic software which is going to run the whole business. So I'm actually a consultant, so my on-call culture is great because I don't have one. But I did previously work for a company where I was 24/7 support, which is not great, especially in a small company with not a lot of engineers. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of on-call, but there is a place for it, especially with things like SRE, so site reliability engineering. I think it needs to make sure there's a balance between work and non-work, and a lot of the on-call stuff can kind of be a real drain to that. Yeah, so because DevOps consulting, yeah, we don't do PagerDuty. I don't have PagerDuty on anything, which is great. But a lot of the work I do is go into organizations and help how to streamline their mainly CI/CD. That's a really big one. GitHub, getting people on GitHub is a big one. For the kind of managed services, yeah, Terraform Apply. Or this is why I like to do in this pipeline here. I have my Terraform plan actually output and then upload before running my Terraform applies. So I can easily do things like rollbacks. I can see exactly what was applied where, and do things like, and fix things like that. So it's about kind of taking kind of small steps and making sure that you've got your rollbacks in place. And that the other way of doing it, you can also roll forwards. If you make a mistake, if you can fix it quickly, you can roll forwards and fix it. But yeah, cool. And what I'm doing at the moment, so I've just finished deploying my database, so which is all good. Now I want to actually go and connect to my database, but this doesn't want. No, I don't want to create a function. What am I doing? Don't know why there's no thing in here to give me the link to my SQL Server. So I've just deployed SQL Server. There's the app service I've deployed. Why don't we want to connect? Well, let's go have a look and see if there's maybe an extension I'm missing. See if there's an Azure SQL extension. No, I don't want to do that one. No, it doesn't look like Azure Databases. No, I don't want Cosmos DB. Really annoying that it's like you get the Azure extension and it doesn't give you doesn't like the Azure database. There's no Azure Databases connection. And I want to connect from it locally too, so I can do development on it. And then it wants this, but then it wants a specific account endpoint and account key. But we don't really have an account endpoint and an account key in here. Well, that's a bit of a pain, really. So what we might end up having to do, can I connect, is there a... Okay, so I can run kind of a query editor through the portal here. So I'll just put in my password. Cannot open... okay. Maybe what's happening there is that it doesn't like... So maybe it's, I've got security in place and it's saying no, you can't connect. Network settings. Let's add my client. There's my IP address for anyone who wants it. Luckily it rotates, so I don't have to worry too much about that one. Alright, so that should have added my client there. Let's try that one again. There we go. That's better. Alright, so we can do some of our database development in here. That's right. So we know that we can connect. Okay. So let's go back here into our app. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to go back to main, pull our changes we've merged into main, and then we're going to now I need to put a -b to make me a new branch. Push, and we will run that upstream command to push it upstream. Cool. Terraform is actually it's a bit intense because I'm dumping it all in one thing. It's not too bad. So it's just all I'm doing here with the Terraform is defining some resources that I want. So I've got a resource group. I've then got a container registry. So this is where, because everything's being built is Docker, so the little containers get pushed up into the container registry. There's the service plan. So everyone starts somewhere with Terraform. Copy and paste is completely valid, and you kind of learn as you go. So there's lots of really good resources on kind of how to start with Terraform, and then kind of progress from there. Like when you get into module, like a lot of my colleagues, this is very simplistic Terraform. Their Terraform is miles more complicated and better than mine. They'll do things with modules and set up reusable groups and stuff that will deploy an entire cloud infrastructure in one Terraform plan. So this one's pretty simple, but everyone starts somewhere, so don't worry too much if you're copying and pasting 5 lines, 10 lines of Terraform. Just using Terraform in itself is a really good first step. Alrighty. So, now, where was I? Okay, so I gotta set up the connection string here, and I want to use this, use the .NET secret. So what this is, .NET user secrets. Because we're storing our connection string, and our connection string will have our password in it, we don't want to store that. So that was the one for a local one we were using, but we don't really want to store that inside source control. So what we want to do is we want to create a local version of that, and then when this is running up in our app service, we want to expose it as part of an environmental variable. So what we want to do here, so you can do a couple of things with .NET. You can set up environmental variables and have it read from environmental variables, but then it can still be kind of exposed, especially if you put it in a container as environmental variable. If someone grabs that container, they'll be able to go in and actually look at the environmental variable. So you don't really want to do that. So let's start with .NET user secrets. So this lets us store a local secret that will then be picked up by the application, but it will be kept secret. So let's do a .NET user secrets net. Didn't like that because I'm not in the right directory for the application. There we go. Okay, cool. Now I've set that up. So now I have that enabled for this project. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a connection string. So we're going to want to call it connection strings and then this. So what we'll do is we'll go .NET user secrets set, and then it'll be connection strings. Put that there, and then it'll be Twitch app DB context connection. So that's the kind of 2 keys there. So that's our base level and then our key, and then our value. What I'm going to do, just going to pop this off screen for a second, and then I'm also going to pop this off screen for a second, and I'm going to go and grab all of those things. So we have a bit of a black screen for a sec while I go and securely grab our connection string and put that in. Alright. Okay, so I'm just setting it up here. I'm just just need to put in my password into the connection string. Again, this is something I should do as a video, where it's not going to matter if the connection string kind of gets leaked, because I'll just delete it after I finish with the video, to show people how this all works. Because I know identity and setting up this stuff is definitely a difficult part. Okay, so that should be everything here. Okay. Let's sort of clear my terminal, and we're back there. Great. Alrighty. Sorry, itchy nose. So that should override this. Alright, and let's bring our window back around here. Okay, cool. So that should now be accessible inside the user secrets. Okay. So that should be fine. So now if we do, let's do a build. And now to test this, we should do a update. I think that, don't know if that was the correct syntax, but we'll find out in a minute. So my normal day is actually spent doing a lot of kind of the continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines, CI/CD. So that's creating, so kind of what we have here with these workflows. So it's my current client that I'm working with, I'm doing this with the Azure DevOps platform rather than GitHub, but it's very similar. But I'm writing the pipelines that take the code that developers write, build it, test it, and then deploy it into like different environments. So usually dev, and then moves on to test, and then eventually to production. So I spend a lot of time doing that at the moment. But I also do infrastructure as code. That failed to log in, I'll deal with that in a sec. I do infrastructure as code. I do cloud platform design. The whole slew of different things. Yeah, I wouldn't say DevOps is fixing crashed VM boxes isn't super common, at least not in my experience. A lot of companies are moving away from VM boxes entirely. So we also use, I've seen a lot in use is Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is really big in a lot of larger client bases, whereas maybe smaller clients will use Azure App Services. So containerization is also a big part of what I do. So helping developers containerize their applications, writing Docker files, stuff like that. Hardest part about my job really is just getting to talk to the right people who know what is going on within an organization. So getting the lead developers and things like that. That's kind of the hardest part. Once you've got the right people in the room, it becomes a lot easier to talk to people. But there's also still barriers to some developers don't want to talk to DevOps because they think, oh, it's just a waste of time, I'm too busy developing. And some platform people might say, oh, DevOps is just doing CI/CD, they don't care about cloud. So there's still barriers there sometimes, but in a good organization, you should be able to talk between the two. So the things kept crashing because essentially they didn't put enough money in to handle the load. Yeah, it's a hard one. I think dealing with business can be can be difficult when they say there's no money to do X, and you say, well, if you don't, then it's going to crash. The same is true for security as well. They'll say just get it done, and there's security flaws, and all you can do is raise your hand and say, hey, this is a bad idea, this is security. But in the day, if they're the ones paying the bill, then you kind of have to do what they ask. And then if you really don't like it, then that's time to move on. So that's a lot of things too. It's like there are a lot of DevOps will always have jobs. It's not like if you get stuck in a situation where you really disagree with the way things are going, just move. If you can. Don't move without a job. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but start looking pretty much as soon as you can, depending on where you're based. I know I'm in Australia. There are tons of jobs around. You're just going to be patient, keep plugging away at your skills, and then you'll eventually find that role that gets your foot in the door. So, but yeah, and there's a lot of companies now. Okay, cool. Yeah, going back to there's as far as I can tell, there's a lot of work still in the States. Well, even though you see big companies doing layoffs, pretty much all those engineers are moving into roles in smaller companies, because there's still a lot of development and a lot of DevOps work that needs doing. So yeah, just keep trying as best you can. I find it's really good if you're able to do some stuff like I'm doing, where I'm building stuff and add it to GitHub, so you don't have to stream it, but just in your own time, build little things, build little microservices, stick it on GitHub, and then take that to your interviews. And if they say, oh, we only want to speak to you if you're doing leak code, you say, well, I do have a portfolio of work. And sometimes that might get them to go, oh, well, all right, let's look at that, rather than worrying so much about things like leak code. All right, so where was I? Itchy nose. It did a failed login. It didn't like something. Failed login for that user. Why did we get a failed login? I'm pretty sure I put the password in, right? Let me just go and quickly try that command again to put the password in. I may have messed that up. Check here, so I'm just checking my second screen. Looks like it may have. Oh yeah, looks like I messed up there a little bit. Alright, and let's clear that, and let's bring the code back over, and we'll just do update database. See if that one works. No, that wasn't the command I was looking for. Yeah. So sometimes you've got to choose what you build. Sometimes, yeah, that can be funny, but yeah, an interviewer might be like, not sure about that. One cool one I did was I wrote a program which tracked the position of satellites. It wasn't actually that hard after I did some research, and it was a really cool thing to kind of show. It's like, hey, cool, this API you can query and it'll give you the location of all the Starlink satellites, things like that. So if you can do stuff like that, which kind of people will be like, oh wow, that's really cool, that kind of also really helps. Update database. I think I'm just writing typos. So I used this publicly available data, which allows you to kind of work out the position of satellites, and then I just wrote that as a microservice, and was able to then call that at a time and date, and it calculated where a set of satellites were. There we go. That looks. Am I doing that right? Okay, things are still being a bit funny there. I need to go and try that. Connection string is not actually doing what I wanted to do. Sorry, just it's being a little pedantic for me today. Yeah, so it's middleware stuff, and that's the good thing you can do with microservices. You can have like a publicly available API that you write a middleware for. The actual term for that is a kind of back end. Like if you have a front end which then talks to your middleware, it's called a back end for front end, or a BFF service, which is really useful because you can kind of build your front end to show, all right, the front end connects to this microservice in the middle. That microservice then goes and reaches out and grabs things from all sorts of other publicly available services. And that shows that you know how to pass credentials to an API, and how you can use that API to go and fetch data as required. Alrighty, this seems a bit better. It hasn't failed straight away, which makes me feel like I've correctly put the password in the user secrets now. I say that as it fails because it can't log in. Alright, let's go have a quick look. So that's the database. Why is it being problematic? This one's really annoying because I can't, I want to show what's going on stream, but also I don't want to leak the password because it is on a publicly available connection at the moment. So let's just maybe shift. So I'm just going to try a simpler connection string at the moment. Just seeing if there's a different way I can do this, because this is being a bit problematic, but I don't think there is a good way to do it. Because I'm logged into the Azure CLI, so I should actually get that there. that sounds like a good one, yeah. Couldn't imagine working on the scale of something like Bing. Bing would be a massive system to work in, which would be really cool. Alright, so just closing down some tabs, so I need to get some more information here. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll show this stuff won't have anything sensitive in it. So I'm looking at so it's connected queried SQL database using .NET and Entity Framework Core, because that's what I'm using. So yeah, I don't see that one passing QA. So alright, so I've created the database. Got Entity Framework installed. So go to the database server and we go to, let's go to networking. Fine. That's anything there, but I think this is what it's talking about. It's that one. So this is enabling the our access from our local machine, which we've done that. So, all right. So if we say support only, the Azure admin. So we got to set an admin. That's fine. We can do that. That we set me as the admin. That's fine. And we say we're only going to support Azure AD. So I haven't actually used this method of logging in. This is kind of cool. If we can do this without exposing passwords at all, this would be great. Okay, so what next? Well, we've got a project, so we don't need the project. We've got our these packages are already added, so not really nervous about streaming with credentials. So as you can see, I'm pushing things off the side. Also, everything I'm working with is kind of self-contained little projects, so if I was to leak credentials, and I think I may have accidentally bounced the password during this stream, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and change that password later. So, and there's not really much that can be done with a password to an empty database that's sitting off on its own right now. If I was doing something with a larger kind of application that was more complex, then yeah, I'd be cautious of my credentials like I am, moving things on. But I'd be trying to do things as much as I could without passwords. So that's what this is showing here, which is really good. It's showing using the Azure CLI to create a default credential and use that credential, which you essentially would have logging in through a browser to get the Azure CLI, so you don't need to store a credential that can be leaked anyway. And these are the kind of really cool things you can do in cloud and DevOps, where you can do these passwordless systems that kind of all deal with connecting in from a entity essentially inside. Yeah, here's the black screen for today. Yeah, no, I think the core is, if we're doing anything big, it'll be working with passwordless and doing things like having Azure credentials pre-baked into the container image that I'm using, and then have all of the deployments happen with secrets so that they don't get exposed, and all of the service principal accounts already pre-set up. And that's what we're doing here. Is I've got a lot of things that are pre-set up, where I will use them but not have to show their credentials. Alright. So what we should do, so to the Azure Identity, default Azure credentials. So add a connection string that has this, so I'll just clear off my code one again. Alrighty. So what we should do here is we have connection strings. We'll call that connection string there. Still leave it as that. That should be fine. And then we're going to say data source is equal to, now this will be our data source up here. So that's the server name. So that's that. Alrighty. And set our initial I think our initial database. Do we have the database set up yet? Let's put that. Actually, I don't need to use a password. I was about to copy a password in. I don't need to use the password because we've set up that. So this should be the database, and so that should be the initial catalog. Okay. And then just extend this out a bit so we can actually read it a bit easier. So then we want this one here, and we'll grab all of that to the end. Alrighty, so we've got our database server, our database. We're saying authentication is Active Directory default, and encrypt true. And what we'll do, and if we do something like, let's see, so just wants to make sure that I'm still logged in. And let's do something like, so just a group. Yeah, easy groups. We should then just be able to do like a list. There we go. So we're still logged in, so we can see all of these different groups in there. That's our Twitch app group there. Alright. Now we'll go and have a look. Now this still is being a bit annoying, but that's right. So we're grabbing that connection string from there. We are grabbing it just from the basic app settings. We're not using the development at the moment. That should be fine. So now if we do a .NET build, just making sure the application still builds. Yep, all good. Yeah, database update. So now let's see if we can get our Entity Framework to update the database. Alright, the build is successful. So what this should allow us to do now that we've set up using Azure Active Directory here is, because the application is running in an Azure App Service, it already has essentially a user associated with it, a context. So we can just provide access to the Azure App Service to the database and say that this Azure App Service is allowed to connect to the database. So we shouldn't need to supply it with any further credentials there, which would be good. and that simplifies having to pass any credentials across, which is really nice. So I will have to work out how to set that up in the Terraform, because what will happen now is I've changed the setting, and when I go to use the Terraform will be different. So now it's saying login failed. The Azure Active Directory only authentication is enabled. That's what we did. That's interesting. Because we've done that. So why are we not getting that connection? This is the other fun part about DevOps, is always something breaking. So let's just come in here. Yeah, no, that's correct. The subscription is correct. Why can we not? Okay, I think I might have an idea. I need the double see. I might have the wrong account enabled as the connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my account ID to make sure I've got the right subscription set. And now this should be the right one. Yep. Now the other thing that could be happening here is it could still trying to use that .NET secret. So I actually need to work out how to remove a secret. Here we go. So yeah, it could still be trying to use that .NET secret, which has the possibility that isn't working. Still thinking about it. Could just be timing out on the connection. That's all right. Yep, didn't like that. That's fine. So I'm going to go remove, and it will be called, what was it? And we'll just copy and paste because I want to try to type that all out, make a mistake. Alright, so we've removed that secret. Let's see now if it's going to go and use the one we have actually stored inside the settings. Alright, so that's a different one. Managed identity response was not in the expected format. That's an interesting one. Alright. Okay. Let's go make sure I can put a typo in here. We go data source is equal to that. Yep. Initial catalog is equal to that. Yep. Let me just add a space there. Authentication is that, and encryption is true. Try again. Make sure I've missed something up here. Alright. Nope, still in the same error. Manage identity spot was not in the correct format. Gonna make sure I have all these packages installed. It should definitely have them installed. Yeah, I'm not sure why this one's being problematic. Try that one again. We might have to, we have some migrations in here which we've already put in place. We may have to, yeah, we might have to actually get rid of those migrations. Right, let's get rid of those migrations. Let's try and set a new initial migration. And then we'll try that again. I think that was another follower. Thank you for the follow. Alrighty, let's try that again. We're getting this unreachable error. Why are you getting an unreachable? So let's keep troubleshooting this. So the data source should definitely be correct. Yeah, that's kind of part of the reason I started this, was that you don't see a lot of DevOps, especially showing these kind of problems. Like, what I'm doing isn't working, and that's okay. This is part of DevOps. Stuff isn't always going to work, and sometimes you're going to have to sit here and like go back and forth and figure out what is it exactly that's not working and how do I fix it. That's fine. And yeah, you don't see a lot of that in the streamers kind of on here. It's kind of more of a, either it's game dev, which is very different, or it's kind of more of a well curated presentation of here is everything working just straight away. Which anyone who's been in DevOps at all knows that 90% of the time it's not. Yeah, 99% this is fine, 1% success, yeah. Pretty much. And all that matters at the end of the day is when you do that last push and it all works. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else is just is the learning process to getting there. Okay. So. Alrighty. So getting a 403 connecting to there. Almost like the networking's blocking me. So I've got Azure Active Directory is set. What does our networking tell us? I don't want private endpoint. We've got an IP address set. Let's allow Azure services and stuff to connect. See if that works. Let's also go here and see if there was anything that said client IP. So that's on the database server. So that's been set, and that's okay. Nothing to save the extra changes were made. Database is online. Let's try again. No, still the same. Right, time to ask Google. So, actually, let's do something a bit more interesting than just ask Google. Let's ask ChatGPT. See if it knows what my issue is. Then this is where you can use these AI tools. Well, you can use these AI tools when they're up. I don't think that's the right side though. Let's try. Let's try going to the actual correct side rather than just that one. Now I have access to 4. It does have a cap on messages, but that's fine. No, I won't be able to ping test and telnet the SQL Server because I've set the connection to be only acknowledged from an Azure AD connection. So I don't think that's gonna let me ping it. So let's see. I don't have a virtual network for this either, so I don't even have a public IP. The closest I've got is the server name here. So I've got select networks there. Don't have a VNet. Active Directory set to my account as the admin. I've actually forced it to support only that. I mean, we can try and ping it. Let's see what happens. Ping not found. Oh, I'm in a container. Alright, let's try it outside the container, hey? No, destination host unreachable. I'm not super surprised in that, actually. Let's see. So IP address is certainly there, that's fine. Can we get is any of our Azure extensions? We can connect to Azure so we can see it through the extensions. So we're connecting the SQL Server through the .NET application. So I'm trying to use Entity Framework to connect and do a migration. We don't have any. It's really because we can't see SQL Server resources through this connection here. Actually, let's check have I got this under the correct... No, it'll be under the correct subscription because it's inside this resource group. It's the database. The server. So it's not actually running in the app service yet, so I'm running it locally. So I've logged in with the Azure CLI. So the Azure CLI should be using its default credential to run this locally, and that should be syncing up then with my account that is set as the Active Directory admin. That's my assumption anyway, that's the way it's working. But I can't seem to get that to work the way I want it to. Also, this connection here doesn't seem to work. Yeah, it wants this account endpoint account key, which I don't have because I'm not using whatever that particular instance is. Here's the thing, let's check my access. Current role assignment is Service Administrator. So I should have full access to everything within that subscription. That shouldn't be an issue there. That's the right name there. And just check the catalog. If the catalog is correct, authentication should be active directory default and encryption should be true. Let's see. So I got that. Let's check my see if we can make sure I've got my Azure CLI up to date. There is upgrade. Make sure I'm one version behind, so let's see if that's an issue. What did ChatGPT tell us? See if I can refine some of the issues there. Yeah, so this is so it's giving you the same advice that you were giving before, sort of where it's telling us to assign the managed identity as if we're connecting from the Azure App Service itself. Actually, I wonder if that's part of it. Oh no, we would be getting a login error if that was part of it there. This is telling us to do that. Yeah, I think the other problem with ChatGPT here is that the information here is out of date. I don't know about that. Maybe I'll have to compare that. I'll have to actually go and try and use JavaScript, TypeScript to do a connection for a database and compare how it is setting up this kind of stuff. Just a 20 benchmark test. Yeah. I don't know. My experience with JavaScript stuff and Node stuff at the moment is that they take huge amounts of time for building, and the unit tests can be horribly slow. Alright, so we're using the Azure. Make sure I'm getting the connection string correctly here. No, it's still annoyingly giving me errors here, even though the application builds. It's a bit silly. Alright, so we are getting the connection string there. And when we add the DB context, we are using SQL Server and connection string. So that connection string is being used there. And is using SQL Server. So that's fine. It shouldn't be creating an issue for us. This is all just red because I'm doing multiple folders and it doesn't know which project to look at to confirm that it's got linking, but because we can build, it does have linking. Here's the CLI is taking a while to update, but that's alright. Alright, what I might do is I might have a quick break here, just to get up, have stretch, have some water. When I get back, hopefully this Azure CLI update will have been done, and we can test to see if that's the issue. So I'll be back in kind of, let's say 10 minutes or so. Yeah, no, every DevOps engineer deserves breaks. No, always time for breaks, always time for front-end IPs. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Alright, I'll be back soon. Alright, and we're back. Just a quick break there. Alrighty. Now, back to trying to fix this thing. So I've updated the Azure CLI. So let's see if that has had any effect on us being able to connect to this database. Alright, so build starter succeeded. No, still getting an authentication failed. Authenticity is not the expected format. Okay. Oh. Let's ask Google now. See if this Google's going to give us anything further. Yeah, RM-RF would definitely fix everything as far as that container is concerned. Likely it'll do nothing to the system I'm running on. There we go. There's a default credential. Okay, maybe that's not quite what I want. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's using the default option. We're not providing that default anywhere, so that doesn't quite do it for us. So what's the bug doing here? This is giving a different error, I think. Okay. Nothing going there. Let's maybe give it a bit more context of the status 403. I'm gonna try and get something a bit more recent rather than 20. Yeah, I don't want to use that either. Right, let's bounce back to here. This is recent, so we are using we're using .NET 7. We are using the right one there. Let's check the database. So just do look at it through the portal for the moment, because we did use Terraform to set the database up. Alright. Because we can go through and we can connect to the query editor. We can log in with Azure AD from the query editor here. I don't have any tables or anything in here just yet. Let's do testing, and let's just go int od test. Can't remember how to do the do that now. It's gonna say no. That was terrible. So create. Create with 2 ints. Oh. Don't know how long it's been since I've actually done any SQL. I could do varchar here. There we go. So that should give us a table. So we can verify that we definitely have access with our accounts to that. So that's fine. Alright. Actually, no, let's use Azure Data Studio. I'm going to download a local tool. And we're going to attempt to grab this. So I'm going to install it on my base system and just check that I can connect from this machine to the SQL Server directly rather than doing it through the portal. Yeah, I'm not sure I can actually remove the firewall from this one, because I can disable the public access, but that doesn't help me. But the only other option then is select networks. So I would have to set up I'd have to set up like a VNet and a public IP and then set up NSGs to route to the SQL Server itself. Which I'm not really wanting to do. Where does... Oh, I've already done that, haven't I? Right, let's launch this. And so go away. I'm going to go add an account. I'll just bounce over to my other screen. So that should add my account there. All good. Alrighty, and then we're going to connect SQL Server. Now the server, let's go grab that. It should be from here. It should be the server name. I'll just let it do a default. Alright, let's just see if that'll connect for us. Yep, that seems to connect from this machine here. I'm wondering if it's an issue if it's connecting from the container. That could be something, since I'm using a dev container here rather than using the base machine. Let's have a Google about that. I wonder if there's an issue there. So I've logged in with the Azure CLI from inside the dev container, so that should be fine. Let's see if I can actually check if the database is so it should be easy SQL DB should be a list. Yeah, there's a list. So let's see if I can get this. That's subadmin. I want subadmin 7 AM. And then I need a resource group. And the resource group is this one here. Maybe it doesn't need the full URL, it just needs the name. Alright, so we have the details of the SQL server, that's fine. So it's definitely there as far as the CLI is concerned. Okay. So that's there, that's fine. And the other thing I can think it might be is something to do with the fact that I'm running basic tier. Let's have a look. You're going to tell me what the features. No, I'm actually not going to tell me what the limitations of the basic tier are. Yeah, not gonna tell me that from here. More of the documentation than rather than the sales pitch. No, I wouldn't have reached that connection on port limits. I haven't been doing that much on it. You know, this is the same place I was in. I wonder if that's working. Let's have a look. That's database projects. I'll create a new database project. Azure SQL Database. And we're going to put it up, and then we'll actually go and create a new folder called DB. DB. Alright, so that should. Still don't know why it doesn't show up in here. It's really infuriating. Add a database. No, I don't think that's what we want to do. No, we don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm not sure that does what I want it to do, but let's see if I could create a connection to that, to the host from here. Alright, that's the server, and then we want the database to be that one. And we'll use Azure AD. It's going to ask us to go log in, which is fine. Use that tenant. That database. Sure, we'll name it that. And we'll go stick it DB. Sure. Alright, so that's going to go create our database project, which could be useful just for designing the database. That's fine. Still haven't told us why we can't connect, but we'll see if that can connect. If that can connect, then I really don't know why the other one can't connect. Unless it's an issue with NT Framework, maybe? Possibly? I'm just thinking, I just want to go check. Cool, alright. And the SpaceX Stream 4 Starship has just started. We're currently at, looks like it's T-minus 30 minutes to liftoff. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that, and I'll drag that across. If anyone's interested, or actually just realized time is 10 to 11, so it's almost time to end the stream. But I might hang on for a bit longer, especially while we're still troubleshooting this. Because I'm going to stay up anyway and watch this launch. Alright, I'm just going to drag this. I just want to check something on. Okay, cool. No, there's nothing sensitive in that screen. I wonder if this is more. I wonder if this is going to be more of what's going on here. Alright, well, it's extracted that successfully, so that's useful. I wonder if I just try this one. I can always undo, so. Okay. Doesn't. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? That's so annoying. Let's try and remove the double quotes on that and see if that'll just work. Why would you double quote that part? Sure. Alright, so let's get back to our Entity Framework database update. So we've changed that up and we're now forcing that over TCP. See that? No, it still does not like that at all. If we go to this one, it's just going to be the same documentation we've been looking at. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Well, let's also, just for a bit of a giggle, let's put it in here as well, just so it's in both, just in case for some reason it's pulling the other app settings. No, still having an issue. Managed identity response was not in the expected format. So it's 403, so we're still getting disallowed. Go trace routing here. No. Let's try that telnet, see if I can hit that server. No, don't have telnet installed. Sometimes working in containers, you don't have the tools that you really need. So this is all the information I need, but it's not working. So we got the framework going. We've selected the network port, we've selected the client IPv4 address. We have our Active Directory set up. We're using a corporate account, so we have that ability to do that. That's fine. Should have that identity class, should all be in there. Yeah, just not seeing where this is being created and why we're getting a unreachable host. I wonder if it's something to do with the fact we are inside a Docker container. I wonder if that's it. It's not really Any good? Yeah, this could be something here with the network connection from how I'm running the container. Really shouldn't be, but yeah, might be something I need to consider. There is how that's connecting. Alright, I think what I need to do here is I need to do a bit more research on what this is doing and why it cannot connect. I might need to do this part from my local machine, but this is something I actually want to work out because it's kind of a bit of a problem if you can't connect. So Azure SQL so this through TCP port. Yeah, that's. I tried that before, but we can try that again. We just stick it in the port, and then we can. How did the connection string do that before? Did this kind of server connection here? But this server didn't work before. Well, let's see if that does anything. But you would have hoped that that was be in the documentation. It could be some fancy port forwarding needed. Maybe there's something going on there. It definitely could be the case. Could always try it. So I've set up the port forwarding there. Didn't like something there. Didn't like something. Let's remove that because I did change the port forwarding. See if that made any difference. At least it was different error. Sometimes that all is finding the different error and working on that one. I think this is going to be one of those things. If we can nail this and figure out why it's doing it, this would be a good one maybe to write a small blog post on. Okay, so I've removed that and I'm now getting a different error. Network related instance specific error occurring connection. Server was not found or accessible. So let's. I haven't changed server name. Maybe if we try this, change this server. Also, we've got it in here too. We'll change it in both places. See if that changes the error. No, it's still back at a... Let's see if this changes the error now. Alright, so back to our original error. Cool. Cool. See if that changes the error again. Alright, I think at this point I might wrap it up on this for this evening, at least from the coding perspective. Yeah, so we hit some brick walls, but such is life. We're still having trouble connecting to the SQL Server. That's certainly something I'm going to want to find out what the issue is, so I'm going to do a bit more experimentation offline, see if I can figure out what's going on here. But I think what we'll do is we'll return next week. I'll leave this code kind of where it is. I'll just do a add all on Git. Work in progress, so that we don't lose where we are with that. Cool. Yeah, so we will come back to this and we will try and figure out what's going on. So tune in next week and we will pick this up again. I think at this point I'm going to log off for the night. So hope everyone's had a good evening and has a good day tomorrow. And I'll catch you all later.